Poor single dad let a strange girl stay for one night, unaware she was a millionaire's daughter, and she'd love him. "You should not be out here alone," Jack said, his voice low but firm as the rain splattered heavily on his shoulders. "This is not a good place for anyone to stand around at 2 in the morning." The girl turned sharply, startled. Her hair was drenched, strands plastered against her face. Her eyes, wide with fear, darted around before settling on him. "I do not need your pity," she snapped, hugging herself tighter. Jack stepped closer, though not too close. He was still wearing his city sanitation uniform, the reflective stripes glowing faintly under the streetlight. "I am not offering pity," he said. "I am offering a place that has heat, running water, and no knives in the hands of strangers." The girl hesitated. Her lips quivered, not just from the cold. He saw the tremble in her fingers, the way she glanced toward the dark end of the block like she was expecting someone, or afraid someone might come back. "What happened?" he asked, his tone gentler now. She looked down. I got robbed. My phone is dead. My bag is gone." Jack let the silence hang for a moment. Then he exhaled. "You want to call someone?" She shook her head. "I do not want to talk to anyone. I just need a safe place. Until morning." Jack hesitated. His instinct said to walk away. He had a 6-year-old daughter at home and no room for risks. But something about the way she was standing, shivering with pride and fear tangled into one, made him stop thinking and start acting. "All right," he said, adjusting the strap on his work bag. "I live 2 blocks from here. It is not much, but it is warm. You can stay on the couch for the night." She looked like she might argue again, but then her knees buckled slightly. "Okay," she said, barely audible. They walked in silence. Jack kept a small distance, respectful but watchful. When they reached his small duplex, he unlocked the door carefully and motioned for her to step inside. The house was dimly lit, clean but clearly lived in, children's books on the shelf, a tiny pink backpack near the door. "Take your shoes off there," he said, gesturing to a mat. "The couch is yours for the night. There's an extra blanket in the closet." She nodded without a word, wiping rain from her cheeks with her sleeve. Jack walked to the back of the house, into a small room cluttered with boxes. He placed his wallet and keys in a locked drawer, not out of suspicion, just a habit born of survival. Then he returned with a blanket, a clean towel, and a dry sweatshirt. "Bathrooms to the right," he said, handing them to her. "You can shower if you want. The water takes a minute to get warm." She took the bundle with both hands, her eyes flickering briefly toward his face, confused by his neutrality. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, finally. Jack rubbed the back of his neck. "Because you looked like you needed help, and I would hope someone would do the same for my daughter if she ever ends up in trouble." The girl seemed to flinch at the word daughter, but said nothing. While she was in the bathroom, Jack scribbled a quick note and placed it beside a steaming mug of water he heated in the microwave. Then, as quietly as he could, he disappeared down the hallway into the bedroom he shared with his little girl. Emma emerged from the bathroom 20 minutes later, wrapped in the oversized sweatshirt. The house was silent. On the coffee table next to the sofa sat a folded blanket, the mug of warm water, and the note. "If you need to call anyone, the landline is on the wall. Don't hesitate to open the closet for more blankets. Please keep the door closed. My daughter is a light sleeper." She stared at the note for a long moment, her fingers resting lightly on the edge of the cup. The warmth seeped through the ceramic into her skin, and for the first time all night she felt something she had not in days. Safe. She curled onto the couch, pulled the blanket over her, and listened to the rain soften outside. The man who had taken her in had not asked for her name or offered his. He had not made her feel small or indebted or judged. She did not know who he was, but for now that did not matter. She would sleep, and tomorrow she would figure out what to do next. Emma woke to the sound of laughter, light, high-pitched, and unmistakably that of a child. For a moment she was disoriented. The soft blanket around her, the smell of something warm drifting from the kitchen, the murmur of cartoons playing low in the background. It was a far cry from the chaos of the night before. She sat up slowly and blinked against the soft morning light. Across the small living room, a little girl sat cross-legged on the carpet, building a tower out of plastic blocks. Her curls bounced as she giggled to herself, seemingly unaware of Emma's awakening. "Good morning," Emma said gently, her voice raspy. The child looked up, her face lighting up with curiosity. "Hi! You are the princess that slept on our couch," she said cheerfully. Emma blinked. "Excuse me?" "My name is Lily," the girl said proudly. "Daddy said a nice lady stayed over because she was cold and rained on. That's you," Emma chuckled, her first real smile in days. "I guess that is me. Nice to meet you, Lily." A voice called from the kitchen. "Lily, breakfast duty. Come help me burn the toast." Lily giggled again and ran toward the kitchen. Emma stood, stretched, and followed slowly, her body still sore from sleeping in strange positions. She stepped into the small kitchen to find Jack cracking eggs into a bowl with one hand, his other stirring something in a pan. "You cook?" she asked, unsure whether it was admiration or surprise in her voice. Jack glanced over. "Only if Lily is brave enough to eat it. You want to help?" Emma hesitated. "I can try, though I should warn you I am not very domestic." He passed her a whisk and smiled. "Neither am I. That is why we burn a lot of toast in this house." She laughed, the sound surprising even herself. Together they moved around the small kitchen, Lily climbing onto a stool to help butter slices of bread, while Emma attempted to flip scrambled eggs. Of course she messed up. The spatula slipped from her hand, and the bowl tipped sideways, splattering eggs across the counter and onto the floor. Emma gasped. "Oh no!" She reached for a towel, but Lily beat her to it. The little girl handed her a paper towel with a grin. "It's okay. Daddy spilled stuff too, all the time." Emma stared at her for a moment, then burst into genuine laughter. Jack said nothing, just smiled as he quietly scooped the rest of the eggs back into the pan and kept cooking. When they finally sat down for breakfast, Emma looked nervously at the plate in front of Jack. She had done her best, but the eggs were overcooked, the toast a little burnt, and the bacon oddly chewy. Still, Jack ate every bite. "This is great," he said with a straight face. "You do not have to lie," Emma replied, raising an eyebrow. "I am not lying," Jack said. "It is edible, that counts." Lily poked at hers, chewing dutifully. Emma tried not to watch. After the meal, Jack stood and collected the dishes. "You two relax. I'll take care of this." Emma offered to help, but he waved her off. As she and Lily moved to the living room, she glanced back and caught a glimpse of him sneaking another plate from the oven, fresh scrambled eggs and toast. He had cooked something else, for Lily, just in case. She said nothing. Later that morning, while Emma helped Lily build a Lego house, the little girl leaned in and whispered, "The eggs Daddy made after were better, but it's okay. He still ate yours." Emma's eyebrows rose. "He made more?" Lily nodded. "But he told me not to tell. Oops." Emma stood up, walked to the kitchen and leaned against the door frame. Jack looked up, caught mid-bite of his second plate of eggs. She crossed her arms. "So I burned breakfast." He smiled sheepishly. "You cooked breakfast. That is what matters." "Why not just tell me?" Jack shrugged. "Because the first time doing something is always messy. You just need someone to eat it anyway." Emma looked at him for a long moment, and something in her chest shifted. He was unlike anyone she had ever met, honest, kind without performance, and patient in a way that disarmed her. "You said something last night about hoping someone would help your daughter if she ever needed it," she said softly. "You are a good father, Jack." He said nothing, just smiled slightly and returned to his eggs. Later, while washing the dishes, Jack spoke casually. "There is a laundromat down the block. The owner is a friend. I could ask if they need help if you are staying in the city a while." Emma hesitated. "Maybe. I need to earn some money while waiting for paperwork. I lost everything." "Like a job and an ID?" "Something like that," she replied. "I'm a student, or was, out of state. Complicated stuff." Jack did not pry. He just nodded. Let me know if you want to check out the laundromat. I'll walk you over." Emma looked at him again. This man had no idea who she really was, and he did not care. He was helping her not out of obligation, but because it was simply who he was, and that, somehow, made her feel more seen than anything money had ever bought. The bell above the laundromat door jingled as Emma stepped inside. The smell of detergent, mixed with something sour and metallic, hit her all at once. Machines clanked in unison, baskets of clothes overflowed, and the air was warm, stuffy even. A woman behind the counter barely looked up. "You Jack's friend?" she asked. Emma nodded. The woman handed her an apron. "Clock starts now." And just like that, she was in. By noon, Emma's back was sore. Her hands were red from soap and fabric softener, and 2 customers had already snapped at her. One accused her of shrinking his sweater. Another handed her 3 bags of damp clothes and said, "I expect this by 5, before walking out. She looked at the clock. Only 3 hours in. By late afternoon, she stood in the alley behind the laundromat, slumped against the wall, her apron stained and her cheeks flushed. Her phone, still dead, sat uselessly in her coat pocket. She stared at the dumpster across from her and considered walking away, back to the shelter, back to anything but this. When she returned to Jack's house that evening, she said nothing, just dropped her bag, sat on the edge of the couch, and pulled off her shoes, grimacing at the blisters on her heels. Jack noticed, but he did not ask. The next morning, Emma woke up to find a pair of clean white sneakers by the door. No tag, no note, but obviously not hers. She picked one up, lightweight, sturdy, exactly her size. Inside one shoe, a small piece of paper was folded neatly. "I figured your feet deserved better. If you're walking away, at least don't walk in pain." She stood there for a long time, holding the shoes, and then she put them on. When Jack returned from his night shift, she was in the kitchen, already halfway through making toast. "You did not leave," he said. "I almost did," she replied. "But your guilt-trip footwear worked." Jack smirked. "They were not meant to guilt you." "No, they were meant to say you have the choice. That's all." Later that week, she complained again after folding a seemingly endless mountain of towels. "I have never been this exhausted," she muttered, rubbing her neck. "And I used to think yoga was hard." Jack looked up from the laundry bag he was sorting. "You are earning something real now." She gave him a tired look. "You mean back pain?" "I mean the freedom of living by your own work. Even if your hands get dirty, it is yours. No one can take that from you." Emma did not respond right away, but those words stayed with her. That Friday, the laundromat took on a large delivery order for a local hotel. They had to wash, dry, and fold over 100 sheets and uniforms by morning. Emma stayed behind to help Jack finish the job. They worked past midnight, the fluorescent lights humming above them. Jack folded in silence, swift and practiced. Emma struggled to keep up, often unfolding and refolding the same shirt 3 times before getting it right. Around 2 a.m., they finally loaded the clean clothes into the back of Jack's old pickup truck. "I cannot feel my fingers," Emma groaned as she climbed into the passenger seat. "You will miss them when they are gone," Jack replied dryly, starting the engine. They drove through the quiet streets, dropping off bundles to a few houses. It was peaceful in a strange way, almost comforting. The silence between them was not awkward but easy. At one stop, Jack handed Emma a small laundry bag. "Go leave this at the door, house number 15, the one with the porch light." Emma nodded and stepped out. She placed the bag on the stoop and turned back, but just then the porch light flickered off, and a large dog burst from behind the gate, barking and charging toward her. Emma screamed and stumbled backward, her ankle twisting on the curb. She hit the pavement hard, her palms scraping against the concrete. The truck door slammed. Jack was already sprinting toward her. He reached her just as the dog skidded to a stop, barking wildly. Jack stood between them, arms out, and shouted, "Get back!" The dog, startled, retreated toward the yard. Jack scooped Emma up before she could argue. "I told you to wait in the truck," he snapped as he carried her back. "I thought I could handle a bag of laundry," she muttered, clutching her throbbing wrist. He set her down gently inside the cab and slammed the door behind her. "Damn it, Emma," he said, rubbing a hand down his face. "I said to stay put." "It is just a scrape. I do not care about the scrape," he cut in, his voice rough. "I care that you could have been seriously hurt. What were you thinking?" She had never seen him like this, angry, truly angry. But beneath it there was something else, fear. She looked at him for a moment, and then her eyes welled up with tears, not from the pain in her ankle, but from the sudden, overwhelming wave of emotion. "No one's ever yelled at me because they were scared for me," she whispered. Jack sat back, the tension in his shoulders easing. "Well," he said quietly, "you are in the wrong house now." Emma wiped at her cheeks and laughed, a wet, broken sound, and for the first time, it did not feel like a house anymore. It felt like something else, something like home. Emma was folding towels behind the counter when the necklace slipped out. It was a delicate gold chain, thin and elegant, with a single sapphire pendant that caught the light like a drop of blue flame. She had hidden it inside a pocket of her duffel bag, wrapped in an old sock, hoping never to see it again. But somehow, it had made its way into the laundry by mistake. She froze the moment she saw it lying atop the pile of whites. Before she could reach for it, Jack walked past, stopped, and looked down. His gaze landed on the necklace. For a moment, he said nothing. Then, slowly, he looked up at her. She held her breath. "That," he said quietly, "is not something a broke student carries around." Emma hesitated, then reached down and snatched the necklace up, tucking it into her back pocket. "I forgot it was in there," she murmured. "Whose is it?" Emma didn't answer. Jack stepped back, his face tightening. "Who are you really?" Emma swallowed hard. The silence was louder than any shout. "I'm someone who walked away from a world where everything has a price, except love," she said finally. "That's all you need to know." He stared at her for a long moment. "You lied to me." "I didn't lie. I left things out." Jack's voice dropped. "That's the same thing." Emma's lips trembled, but she turned away, her hands trembling. "Do you know what it's like to be watched every moment of your life? To be told who to love, where to go, what to become? No, Jack said, but I know what it's like to be honest with someone who isn't. They stood there in silence, the hum of machines the only sound between them. Emma felt tears rising but refused to let them fall. Before either could speak again, the door swung open. A man in a leather jacket and ball cap walked in, holding up a smartphone. His eyes locked on Emma. "There she is," he muttered, raising his camera. Emma's breath caught in her throat. The man snapped a photo. "You've been missing for 5 days, sweetheart. Your daddy's offering 6 figures to know where you're hiding." Jack stepped forward. "Hey, get out of here. Relax, man. I'm just doing my job," the man said, taking another picture. Emma backed away, panic blooming in her chest. Jack moved quickly. He grabbed Emma by the arm and pulled her toward the back exit. "Go, now." They burst out the rear door, Emma panting, her mind spinning. Jack didn't stop running until they reached his truck. "What about Lily?" Emma gasped. "She's at school. I'll get her." Within the hour, Lily was in Jack's arms, confused and sleepy. Jack handed her a juice box and strapped her into the back seat of the truck. Emma watched in stunned silence as he drove them not home, but to the house next door, his neighbor, Mrs. Ramirez. "She'll keep her safe," Jack said. "You trust her?" "With my life," Jack said, his tone firm. Mrs. Ramirez opened the door before he could knock, nodding silently. "Come in, mijo." "I'll keep the little one." Jack leaned down and kissed Lily's forehead. "You'll stay with Grandma Ramirez for a little while, okay? Just like a sleepover." Lily nodded. "Okay, Daddy." Jack straightened, exhaled deeply, and turned to Emma. "Let's go." They drove out of the neighborhood, not speaking until they were on the edge of town. Emma stared at him in the silence, guilt and gratitude battling in her chest. He kept one hand on the wheel, the other resting lightly on his thigh, fingers flexing. Emma realized then that his shirt sleeve was torn. "Your arm," she said suddenly. "What happened?" He glanced down at the bruise forming along his bicep. "The guy pushed me when I tried to block his camera. Why didn't you say anything?" Jack shrugged. "As long as you and Lily are safe, I can deal with a bruise." Emma looked at him, her eyes welling again. In that moment, she realized something. Jack didn't protect her because of who she might be. He did it because of who he was. They returned to the house just after sunset. Jack parked a block away to be cautious, scanning for cars that did not belong. Emma sat beside him, silent, her nerves tight. The porch light was off. Something was wrong. Jack motioned for her to stay in the truck, but Emma had already opened the door. "It's okay," she said. "If someone's come, I need to face it." They walked together toward the house. And then they saw it. A black town car idled in front of the driveway, sleek and gleaming beneath the street lamp. Two men in dark suits stood by the porch. The front door was open. Jack quickened his pace, instinct kicking in. He stepped in front of Emma protectively, just as a third man emerged from inside. He was older, tall, with silver hair impeccably combed back, and a heavy presence that filled the space like thunderclouds. "Emma," he said coldly, "get in the car." Emma froze. Jack didn't. "You her father?" he asked, voice level. "I am Winston Harrington," the man said, his eyes sharp. "You're the man who's been harboring my daughter." "I'm the man who gave her a couch when she had nowhere else to go," Jack replied. Winston took a slow step forward, scanning the house with distaste. This place, this life. It's beneath her. You can't possibly think she belongs here." "She made that decision," Jack said. "Not me. You can't keep her here." "I'm not keeping anyone," Jack said, his tone harder now. "But I'm not handing her over like she's a briefcase either." Winston's eyes narrowed. "You don't know who she is." "I don't care who she is," Jack shot back. "I know what kind of person she is, and I know she's safe here." Emma stepped between them, her voice steady though her hands shook. "Dad, stop." "You've made your point," Winston said, gesturing to his men. "Now come home." "This is home," she whispered. "No," he said firmly. "This is where you ran to, not where you belong." Jack turned to Emma. "You don't have to go," but she was already looking at the car. Her eyes were wet. "I think I do." "No one's forcing you," Jack said. "Yes, they are," she replied, voice breaking. "Just not with words." He understood. The pressure wasn't physical. It was the weight of a life she'd tried to escape, crashing down again. She stepped back from him, slowly, like she was afraid of what would happen if she moved too quickly. He didn't follow. She turned toward the car. One of the bodyguards opened the door. Winston said nothing. His job was done. Emma paused at the edge of the sidewalk, her back still to Jack. "I'm sorry," she said softly, not turning around. He didn't respond, couldn't. The door closed behind her, the sound like a final chapter being shut. Jack stood on the porch as the car drove away, tail lights bleeding into the night. His fists were clenched at his sides, his jaw tight. Inside, the house was quiet, empty in a way it hadn't felt in weeks. He didn't say a word. He just closed the door and turned off the porch light. The days that followed were quieter. Too quiet. Jack went through the motions. He clocked into his night shifts, pushed the broom down city blocks, and came home just before sunrise. But something in him had dulled. His eyes no longer lit up when Lily greeted him in the morning. His hands moved mechanically as he packed her lunch, brushed her hair, and walked her to the bus. He hadn't told her why Emma was gone, just that sometimes people had to leave, and that it wasn't because they didn't care. Lily did not ask many questions, but she stopped humming when she played, and she began to sleep with the lights on. On the fourth day, she started coughing. At first, Jack brushed it off as a cold. She always caught something when the seasons changed. But then came the fever, then the chills, then the trembling that would not stop, even under 3 blankets. By midnight, she was burning up. Jack carried her in his arms to the truck, his keys shaking in his hands. At the hospital, the fluorescent lights made everything seem harsher. Too white, too bright. A nurse took Lily into triage while Jack paced behind the front desk, waiting for someone to call his name. Finally, a woman approached. "We need a $600 0-cent deposit for admission." Jack pulled out his wallet, knowing it was pointless. He had just over $100 to his name. "Can I pay part now?" he asked. "I'll cover the rest in a few days." The woman hesitated. "A hospital policy is, please," Jack said, voice cracking. "She's 6 years old." He was still arguing when a voice cut through the hallway behind him. "I've got it." He turned. Emma stood there, her coat draped over her arm, her hair damp from the rain outside. She walked past him without waiting for a reaction and handed the receptionist her card. "Put everything under my name," she said. "Room fees, meds, tests, all of it." The nurse typed quickly. "Do you have a relationship with the patient?" Emma looked at Jack, then said, "Yes, I do." Jack stood frozen as they led Lily to a room. An hour later, after the doctors had confirmed it was a viral infection, treatable but needing monitoring, Jack sat beside his daughter's bed, his elbows on his knees, head in his hands. Emma entered quietly. He didn't look up right away. When he did, his voice was low. "You didn't have to do that." She sat in the chair next to him. "I know." He exhaled shakily. "I'm sorry. You shouldn't have been dragged into this." Emma looked at Lily, sleeping with a slight frown on her fevered face. "You didn't drag me in, Jack. I came back." He nodded slowly. Then his voice dropped again, thick with something he wouldn't let spill out. "I know you don't owe me anything," he said, "but thank you for coming back." Emma leaned back in the chair and stared at the ceiling for a moment. "You told me once that everyone deserves to walk without pain," she said. "That goes for hearts, too." They sat in silence, the only sound the beeping of Lily's monitor and the soft rustle of machines. For the first time in days, Jack allowed himself to breathe. Not just because Lily was safe, but because Emma had come back. Emma stood in the marble hallway of her father's penthouse, her shoes silent on the polished floor. The windows stretched from ceiling to floor, showcasing a glittering skyline, but none of it moved her. She wasn't here for the view. Winston Harrington sat at the head of a long glass table, reading the financial section of the paper. He didn't look up when she entered. "I figured you'd be back once the dust settled," he said coolly. "I didn't come back," Emma replied. "I came to talk." Winston folded the paper with exaggerated calm. "You're living in denial, Emma, running around playing house with a man who works 3 jobs just to keep the lights on." Emma crossed her arms. "That man saved me." "From what?" he scoffed. "A little discomfort? You had everything, a future, security, legacy, and you threw it away for what?" Emma stepped closer. "I didn't throw it away. I walked away. There's a difference." Winston rose from his chair. "You gave up everything to hide in a shoebox with a janitor." Emma's voice didn't waver. "He's not a janitor. He's a father, a man who shows up every day for his daughter without fail, a man who taught me more about strength in 3 weeks than you did in 30 years. Winston narrowed his eyes. "You're going to choose him? Over this? Over me?" She looked him in the eye. "I'm choosing my life, my voice. And yes, the man who lives by his hands and his heart." His lips tightened. "You love him?" "I do." He exhaled sharply, as though the word itself had wounded him. "He can't give you anything," Emma smiled softly. "He gives me everything that matters." Winston paced toward the window. "This isn't some fairy tale, Emma. Real life is hard. You'll get tired of it, the struggle, the sacrifice. Love doesn't keep the heat on." Emma followed him with her eyes steady. "It doesn't, but it keeps people warm." He turned sharply, finally meeting her gaze with something vulnerable in his eyes. "You think he can protect you, provide for you? He already has," she said. "Not with money, with dignity, with truth." There was silence for a long time. Then Winston walked to the bar and poured himself a drink. "I never meant to be the villain," he muttered. "I know," Emma said. "You just forgot how to be a person." He stared down into his glass, the tension in his shoulders faltering. "He has something I don't." Emma tilted her head. "You mean a daughter who loves him for who he is?" He looked up sharply. She didn't flinch. "I'm going back," she said simply. "To him, to the life I chose. And this time, I'm not running. I'm walking toward it." Winston didn't stop her. He didn't apologize either. But as she reached the door, his voice stopped her. "Tell him," he hesitated, "tell him he's lucky." She turned back. "No," she said gently. "I'm the lucky one." And then she walked out, into the rain, into the noise, into her real life. She didn't look back. The knock came just after sunrise. Jack was in the kitchen making pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, Lily's favorite. He wiped his hands on a towel expecting the mailman, or maybe Mrs. Ramirez dropping off some homemade tamales. He opened the door and froze. Emma stood there, her hair pulled into a messy bun, her jacket damp with morning dew. In her hands, she held a small brown paper bag. "For Lily," she said softly. "Blueberry muffins, the real kind, no preservatives." Jack didn't say anything. "I'm not here to stay the night," she added quickly, her voice steady. "I'm here to stay, if you'll have me." He searched her face for doubt but found none. "We're not rich," he said, his voice rough. Emma stepped closer. "I've had everything, Jack. Money, travel, luxury, but I never had a kitchen where someone made dinosaur pancakes. I never had a home that felt like it loved me back." Jack stared at her, the weight of every sleepless night, every word unsaid, every feeling buried, threatening to burst free. "This house is small. It's enough," she said. "It's full of heart." His eyes softened. "We don't have much." "I had everything," she repeated, her voice gentler now. "I just didn't have a family." A small voice interrupted them. "Emma?" They both turned to see Lily standing in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. Emma knelt down. "Hey, sunshine. I brought muffins." Lily ran to her, arms wrapping tight around her neck. "Are you staying forever?" Emma looked up at Jack. He nodded. She smiled through the tears. "Yeah, kiddo, forever sounds good." 2 months later, on a crisp Saturday morning, the park was alive with families, dogs, laughter, and the smell of fresh food. Jack's old truck had been converted into a weekend food stand. Emma's idea. "Jack's Jams," the sign read. Breakfast burritos, muffins, and coffee. Emma worked the griddle while Jack took orders. Lily handed out napkins and stickers to customers with a proud grin. They didn't make a fortune, but they made enough. And they made something else, life. Emma flipped a pancake and caught Jack watching her. He smiled and mouthed, "Thank you." She grinned back. For the first time in her life, she didn't need a palace to feel like a queen. She just needed them. Sometimes, the richest lives are built not with wealth, but with kindness, honesty, and the courage to choose love over fear. Jack had nothing to offer but a couch, a cup of warm water, and a quiet heart full of dignity. And that was exactly what Emma needed to find the one thing her world had never given her: home. Thank you for watching this story. If it touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who believes in second chances and simple miracles. And don't forget to subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories for more heartwarming tales that heal, inspire, and remind us all of the power of compassion. See you in the next story.